Hello and welcome to this exciting new paper where we discuss end-to-end performance testing across long-distance high-capacity links. In recent times, we have seen over terabit scale of throughput generated between different locations that are geographically separated, either through satellite links or cable links. So here in Keysight, we decided to test this theory using two locations that were around 800 kilometers or 500 miles apart and generate a host of test cases that not just tests the bandwidth, but also other important parameters like user experience, high transactions per second, application traffic, voice video traffic, and see how good these links are to sustain really pleasant user behaviors over long distance. Let's get to it. We start with a very simple test, basic web load time, where we look at basic parameters like how much time it would take for a user to load a web request if it is distance separated between these two locations. Any kinds of high latency spikes, packet drops, or issues that comes across in this test would clearly indicate that the network is not ready for the performance and scale tests that we have planned for it. Let's get to the very first test of our performance testing. For all these tests, we are going to use our tool SciPerf. We have deployed these SciPerf agents in two of these locations. And for the first test, we are going to generate this basic web load test between these locations. Let's review the results of our basic web load test. So I'm going to click on this link that we have run for simulating the web load testing. It should show me the UI. And you can see this is my location A, the local client. My SciPerf agent is installed in this location. It's going through the wide area network separated by 800 kilometers. And my location B is where we have emulated my server, right? And I'm just going with 10 connections per second. Remember, this is a low performance test. And I can also show you the web page, right? So this is an HTTP GET. It's doing a basic web load with a response of 10,000 bytes. Just replicating a very common scenario of somebody loading a web page through a distance. I ran this test already, so I have my statistics ready, which should load in a second. And I can see that there is a steady set of throughput, connections, steady latency, everything within acceptable range. It's maintaining the objective that we have given. So this kind of gives me confidence on this network to progress on the rest of the high performance tests that I'm going to do next. I can also see the TCP statistic to see if there are any failures. There should not be at this low rate, and there isn't showing by all the zero counts for retransmissions and aborts. Let's go to the next set of tests now. My immediate next test would be everybody's favorite throughput validation. This is a test where we are going to download and upload a whole bunch of large-sized files like 64 kilobytes, 256 kilobyte, 1 MB through the network. This obviously would give us the most common parameter that everybody looks for, which is how much bandwidth this network can sustain. So with that, let's review the results of this test. We are back to our same setup of the client and the server and usual WAN in between, the 800 kilometer distance between them. What we have changed is the applications. So now you can see instead of that basic web page, we have gets and posts. The gets are going to do all the downloads and the posts are going to do all the uploads, right? And we have changed the page sizes. Like we have 1 meg page, we have 512 kilobyte page, 256 kilobyte page, and 64 kilobyte page, right? So these are different page sizes that we are going to use. For bandwidth test, we can also look at TCP settings to look at the buffer sizes. And what we do in bandwidth is we set the max transactions to 0, which basically means you send these gets and posts kind of continuously over the TCP connection to reduce the control plane while maximizing the data plane. Let's now see the test results. The test result shows me a steady 6.5, 6.6 gigs of bandwidth. You can see that we continuously scale up the users and we have some connections to generate those traffic. And latency is most interesting. You can see it's continuously adding the latency, which means if I continue this traffic, there might be at some point some spikes and some issues. But overall, this system is good for 6.5 gigs, which is a lot. I see some retransmissions over SYN and data. That's not unusual for this kind of scale testing. But the fact is that we are able to generate this massive 6.5 Gbps of throughput between these two distant locations.
This brings to the conclusion of our first video of this 3-video series. In the next video, we are going to talk about small packet performance, connection rate, very interesting kind of test methodology, high concurrency test when a lot of users are sharing this long distance network, and voice video streaming test where we are seeing how the user's quality of experience is preserved when they are making a call or seeing a video over that long distance network. Also, feel free to check out the description where I have posted the test methodology and all the test configs GitHub link. Thanks a lot for listening.